among us, and this is Graziella Rogers. She is really a beauty. When my wife met her this morning, then she said, "Wow, you really look nice, you really look beautiful, you are real." Because with Photoshop today, a lot of things are possible. But she is really, wow, she is a beauty. And before you start with your sermon, I just want to ask you a few questions because I'm really curious about that. I was wondering, how did you find out that you are beauty? So did you look first in the mirror and then, whoa, I look better than the others? Or how did it work?
Well, I don't think I ever saw myself as especially beautiful. I'm very interested in beauty and in makeup and fashion, and I think that was more the way of me finding out that I like that whole area or subject. It's not that I thought, wow, I'm very pretty.
I can imagine that as a beauty, you want a beauty competition? Pageant? A pageant? Okay, I do not know the name because I was never there. I had never the chance like you, you know. Maybe you are afraid of losing your beautiness, and you're doing a lot of that you hold being beauty, that you can be always beauty. How do you do that?
I have this really expensive cream that I'm just joking. I think no. What I always tell people, I like if people ask me that, because my beauty, my secret beauty tip that I can give you is to switch off your smartphone with your Facebook and Instagram and all your social media, because I think that if you stop comparing yourself to all these highlights of all other people's lives, then you start to just be at ease and comfortable with who you are, and that's where you start shining. And that's where I think people who are self-confident, they just naturally shine and look more beautiful.
Cool. Very good. You know, I can imagine that because beautiness is like a gift from God, and it's also a responsibility. What do you think? How you should handle if you are beauty like you or someone else? What comes with that? So the responsibility.
Well, I think it's with anybody. God has given us talents and gifts, and we should use it to serve Him and to serve other people. I think it's my responsibility wherever I go to try and see the people around me and figure out what they might need and help them and be a nice person.
Wow, okay, that leads us to the message, and you can be really excited about that, and I hope you really enjoy it and you learn a lot about what Graziella will be preaching today. Give her a big hand and invite her to our congregation. So good.
Thank you very much for having me. It's the very first time I do such a thing in English, so be patient with me or help me with words if I'm looking for them. And that's the very first thing that I want to tell you. I'm Swiss. I might not look like it, but I'm Swiss. So the first thing that we do is to apologize, and I just did for my English. So we Swiss, we are, a little small-minded. So I am very excited to be here because my father is Sri Lankan and my mother is Swiss. So I like anything that is international. I get excited if I see different skin colors and different languages, and it gets me going. I feel really comfortable. I just figured out that there is some Tamil people sitting next to me, and I took out my few words that I have. It's always good to know a few words in every language so you can connect instantly. I want to share with you a little bit about my story. Just shortly, I just got 30 years old. I'm married. 2009 I took place in the Miss Earth pageant, and 2011 I got married to Michael, who is Swiss and very Swiss indeed. In 2012, I started to work for AVC, which is a Christian NGO working amongst persecuted Christians and other people in need. So that's just very briefly what I do, so you have something in mind. And I grew up in a Christian home in Switzerland. I was born and raised there. And it was very normal for me to go to church. And yeah, I was a normal Swiss Christian girl. And at the same time, I was also, yeah, I grew up kind of international. I saw that in a lot of places in this world, as in Sri Lanka, for instance, there is a lot of people who are not as privileged, or maybe have difficulties, financial difficulties, maybe even war and just different struggles than we have in Central Europe. So it was always on my heart to help other people. I liked to be there to share what I have, and I still do to this day. And at the same time, as you already figured out, I was always into beauty and makeup, and I was a really girly girl. I just liked those kind of things. And one day I was sitting in the train and I was reading the newspaper, and I saw that they have these castings for that Miss Earth pageant. And it's a pageant where it's all about using your title to serve other people, to go and fight for environmental awareness, and to go and help people in need, and collect money for them, and blah, 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 blah. And so I thought, well, that's great. I'll go there. I'll try. And so I went to this casting, and I came in very late, and I didn't even have that thing on my plan, on my life plan, but somehow it happened, and God opened that door, and I won that title, and everything changed in my life. I got to go to these really cool model jobs, and I went to Milano and Hamburg, and it was very exciting. But at the same time, I started having struggles with myself, even though now I had this pageant crown, beauty crown, which I was enjoying it. At the same time, my struggles with myself got bigger and bigger. When I came to these model jobs, these really fancy places, and they were actually real models, and they were hired because of their height and their weight, and I was hired because of my title. And I was never tall enough, never skinny enough to be a model. So whenever I came there, I started comparing myself, and I pushed myself down, and somehow I started to get more and more focused with myself, and I started forgetting about people around me. And when I realized that, I figured out that was not me. I was losing a part of who I am and who God wanted me to be. So after my pageant, I realized I want to come back. I want to come back to what I really love doing, and that's being with people, helping people, serving people. But I was so caught up in my own thoughts and so much in my own insecurities that I just cried out to the Lord, and I said, "Oh God, help me! I want to do something with my life. I want to be where you want me to be. I want to serve you." And God did something, and not as I wished. He started helping me losing all my jobs, my model jobs, my contracts, and it got more and more difficult. And I started working at McDonald's, and that was okay. McDonald's is not a bad place to work, not at all. I used to do that during high school. But after a beauty pageant in your hometown, which is a kind of a small town, and in Switzerland that was kind of a big thing at that time. So people knew me, and if they didn't know me, they could read my name. So that was a time where God really worked on me a lot. It was a difficult time. It's a lot of really, really funny things that people would say to me, or at least they thought it was funny, and a lot of questions I had to answer why I am doing that job after being on the top and blah, blah, blah. And I would go home nights a lot of times and I would just cry and ask, oh, Lord, what did you do to me? Why did I do so wrong? And I started to realize at the same time that that was the way that God wanted me to go, because there were just certain things and walls that I built up, or maybe even if I didn't realize, I started thinking that I'm pretty cool, that I won that pageant. And God just was taking away that pride, and He was crushing me. and he wanted to soften my heart again. And I was there a few months, and day by day I started realizing that it's really not about what I've done or what I've accomplished, but that it's just about God loving me. And I brought a verse that got very, very important, or became very important to me. Maybe you can put it on slide because I don't know it in English. Yeah. Love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment. And the second is like it. Love your neighbor as yourself. And that was really what the Lord has taught me. He's like, nothing else matters, but it's two things. Love me. That's what He said to me. Love me, and then love yourself and your neighbor. So when it says love your neighbor as yourself, you can't love your neighbor if you cannot love yourself. And that was my life lesson at that time, is just look in the mirror and be happy and confident and content with who you are. And I can tell you, there will always be a guy tougher and stronger than you. There will always be a girl more beautiful than you. There will always be someone who can sing better than you or do whatever. And that's okay. You don't have to be someone else, but you are a puzzle piece. And you're unique in the shape you are. And if you don't put yourself in the puzzle, then it's a part missing. You don't have to be the other puzzle piece. You're just your own piece. And it's important that we start realizing that, because if we're not confident, if we're not content with who we are, our mind is so caught up in thoughts that we don't see people around us, and we can't serve and love each other. And that's what I said to Dan before, is what I always say if people ask me, yeah, what's your secret beauty tip, or what can you tell us, what can we do that we look beautiful and blah, blah, blah. And I say, well, my thing, I realize if I get caught up in my thoughts, is I'll just delete Facebook and Instagram and other social media from my phone, and I just take a break. I love social media, but sometimes it's so deceiving, because you see all these highlights of your friends. They're having fun constantly. Even if they're bored, they're fancy bored, because they have a glass of champagne and they're putting their feet up and it's so cozy and something like that. And it's just not true. It's all so fake. And just to tell you how fake it is, I brought a picture of myself. And it is actually me. I was there. I can remember that day, but I can't see myself. It's very, very photoshopped. And as you can see, it's not even just... I just want to make you a picture. There was no sand, of course. And I don't have curly hair, but that's obvious. But then at the same time, they photoshopped my face. They didn't just do they didn't just outbalance the skin and things. But I have a total different nose and chin and what do you call those? Cheeks. My cheekbones. I look like an alien. If I see myself, that's not me. And I have other pictures I have model pictures where I have legs. I didn't know I have such long legs. They can just stretch anything. And if we look in all those social media channels, we are constantly seeing those stars having those cool and fancy lives, and we pressure ourselves and we expect to have the same lives as they have. But life is boring sometimes. Life is sad sometimes. We are angry, we are frustrated, we have pain. It's all part of our lives. So being having that pressure on our lives and want it to be so cool and fancy all the times, that's just not realistic. We have our struggles. And that's why my beauty tip for you guys is just to take a break for a week, for 2 days, whatever, and just look in the mirror and tell yourself that you're gorgeous, just the way you are. Even if you're not feeling very hot today, you are. And it's not because you are, but because God said so. And He made you in His image. And that is wonderful. And that's the most important part, to know God has loved you. And I brought you another verse. It's a little bit out of context, but it is for freedom that Christ has set us free. And I believe that if we are fully understanding that God has made us in His image and that He loved us first, and if we start loving ourselves, that we are setting, or God is setting us free, and we are free to love each other. We are free to be in relationships and see each other and see the needs that the other people around us have. And that's what happened with me. After that whole McDonald's thing, God opened the door up for me, and in this place called AVC, which is Action in Behalf of Persecuted Christians and People in Need. And I started working there. And it's really a place where all these things that I have learned come together, and where I can serve people, where I can help other people. We are working in different places. We're also working in Iraq and Syria, which is at the moment a very interesting place to work as an NGO. We're an NGO. And I don't know how you feel if you follow the media, but sometimes it's kind of frustrating. It's so much terrorism, so many bombs and attacks and people dying and killing and war, and sometimes we kind of get almost a little bit numb to it, and it's sad. And sometimes even I read the media and I get kind of scared of all these Islam things. I hear of these terrorists that blow themselves up, and all of a sudden they're starting to do that in Europe. So it kind of gets closer, and we're getting scared. But I can tell you, probably we don't realize it here. We have the feeling that Islam is growing stronger and stronger. But I feel that Islam is starting to fall apart. There is so many Muslims finding Jesus than ever before in human history. Iran was a very open country, and there were tons of evangelists, and Bibles were okay and everything. But in all those years of great work, there have just been some handfuls of Christians. And in the 80s, there was a revolution, and they got a very strict Islam government, and there is even a death penalty on conversion from Islam to Christianity. But Iran is the fastest growing church worldwide. There is millions of Christians in the underground. We can't even bring enough Bibles in there because people want to read the Bibles. In Afghanistan, there have never been so many baptized Christians than now. And people over there, they don't just convert to Jesus just for fun. If you're in one of those countries and you live there and you give your life to Jesus, you're risking everything. So we can count on those Christians to be fully radically in love with Jesus. And that is so amazing. And we are working in the border part from Turkey and Syria. And there is a lot of Kurdish people. And the whole Kurdish people are in a crisis. They're being persecuted by their own brother in faith. And all those people who have heard a lifelong that these Westerners, the Europeans, they're bad people, they're now coming to help them. So for them, it's a total change of mind. They're realizing and they're questioning their lives. And there is so much good stuff going on. We're working in Kobane, which is just on the border from Syria and Turkey. And the mayor, it's a Kurdish area, and the mayor, he was coming to our project leader, and he said, "Come on, people, please, we'll just give you land. Please build a church. Please build a Christian school, because 100 years ago, the last church was destroyed in this area. And since then, the blessing of your God has disappeared. We have been in war. We have been in slavery. There has been death and destruction and nothing else. Please come back. We need your God." Can you imagine? That's not sounding like an Islam that's getting stronger and stronger. Of course, there is areas where it seems to be harsh, but there are millions of Muslims rethinking their values, rethinking their religion. And in Kobane, we have this one story. I'm going to show you a clip. I think it will be in there as well. But there is this one story where our people there, they were just digging a hole. It was more about building the school for these local children. And it's desert. I have never been there. Maybe some of you have been in this area, and it's really desert. And they started digging, and just after a few meters, there was water coming out. And to all the Muslims in the area, for them it was clear, your God is back. The Christians, that's the miracle of the Christian God. Because we're giving you land and you try to build a school and you're not even looking for water. And you're finding water. And that's really something that does not happen there. So, yeah, that's miracles that happen. And I just want to encourage you that it's not all bad that's happening in the world. There is really a lot of amazing things that are happening. The church is growing all over the world. And even if we don't see it sometimes, it is. And of course, we also have a lot of people coming to Europe. And it's amazing to be able to speak to you guys, because I feel that you are kind of bridges. You're living here in Europe and you're already adjusted, you know the culture, and now we have all these refugees coming, and Germans and me and everybody is kind of overwhelmed. It's just a lot, and I don't know, I don't even care what kind of politician attitude you have towards this. That's none of my business, but once they're here, it's a chance, an opportunity for us to meet them. And Muslims need to hear about Jesus, because all they learn is to be a slave for their God. They're brought up with this culture of fear, with this culture of having to please their God and doing good. And even Muhammad just called himself a good slave. Imagine those people, they're ready to kill themselves to be a good slave for their God. And now here we come and we have this gospel of Jesus who came as a lamb and sacrificed himself so we can be children of God. I mean, that alone should be mind-blowing. It's by pure grace. And yes, our Jesus came as a lamb. But I'm telling you something, that next time he'll come as a lion. And nobody wants to be on the loser's side. So we'd better just grab this opportunity and tell those people. So I want to show you the clip and then just share a few last words. It's not very, very up to date. It's from, I think it's 2 years back. So some, like the actual situation has already changed a little bit, but not our work. Yeah, sorry.
Around 200,000 refugees have crossed the border into Turkey and tripled the number of inhabitants of a small Turkish town and surrounding area. Many refugees are jammed into improvised tents, mostly just set on gravelly ground, and in winter the temperatures are often below freezing and there's a lot of rainy weather. Thousands have to share very limited washing and toilet facilities. The huge and widespread tent city has no comforts. Most of the refugees are old people, women and children.
These barbarians should get out of Kobane. We don't know what to do. It is cold. We are freezing and have nothing left. A lot of our people have been killed.
There are few men here. Either they are fighting the IS or have been killed. Many refugees' families make themselves some kind of home in half-finished building constructions and empty buildings. And there are thousands of different stories of misfortune here. Many have lost members of their families, and everyone has lost their home, their work, and their homeland. The situation seems hopeless. Feeding and supplying the refugees is managed almost entirely by a Kurdish committee and the Kurdish government administration. Volunteers from many parts of Europe are working here. For example, a Kurdish woman from Switzerland.
I'm not just here because I'm Kurdish. I would help in most other places. Please come and help too.
A female Turkish sociology student.
One of my close friends.
A very close friend of mine died on the front in Kobane. I feel that the people of this town have left a kind of inheritance behind.
For the team working with our local partner, the day begins with building up our project for the refugees. AVC is involved in practical ways and through financing. Many tents have been erected over an area covering a number of acres. The local government has given AVC's partner organization the responsibility of constructing a new camp with a capacity for 10,000 refugees. This involves expenses of about 120,000 euros. The playground helps a little to entertain the children. A school, visible in the background, provides some basic instruction. The camp kitchen has meanwhile been finished and is already in use.
This is a storage for food distribution, and you have to realize this is for around 200,000 people, but the food is the biggest problem. Yesterday we had an emergency to order 20 tons of the food thanks to ABC.
In Biel, many people, especially Kurdish immigrants, were very happy to. But getting permission for the transportation means overcoming many administrative hurdles. AVC is contributing to special efforts in the area with medical supplies and has a staff member who is a doctor. He and his wife have done a lot. The ambulance provided by AVC is being used as a mobile medical center. So in the middle of all the confusion, there is a germ of hope. Kobane was officially freed in February, but the town lies in ruins in his mind. The IS still has positions close by and lies in wait. The refugees, now as before, are very dependent on help.
We had to flee from Kobane and have nothing, hardly enough to eat, no help. We have no clothes, no shoes. Thank God for support from Obama and from Europe.
But the UNO lacks money. We are calling out to the rest of the world and asking for help. Everyone is waiting for help and support.
So that is just a little bit of our work that we do over there, and that's great. But just as much as we need the work over there, we need people like you here meeting those Muslims that come from these countries. And as I said, I really just see you guys as bridges, because you know how it is to live here. You maybe understand German people a little bit more than people who come from the outside, and you had to adjust your way of living already. And at the same time, you come from all different kinds of places, and you know English, so that's already half of the work. So I really want to encourage you guys to use those talents, to use those possibilities, and to help Germans and refugees to understand each other better. Be those bridges and try to bring the people together. And it's a chance. I mean, we have people here who come from countries where they never ever have the chance to hear about Jesus. Our project leader is kind of a wild guy, so sometimes he goes to Rome and to Athens where refugees come, and he just likes to sleep at the train stations with those people. Just for a couple of days, a month, he goes there. And so around Easter, he took his sleeping bag and he went to Rome to the train station. And there were a couple of Afghans, and he went there. He's like, "Hey, guys, do you know who killed Jesus?" And it was just silence. And he didn't know if he said something wrong, and he just waited. And there was one smaller Afghan, and he came forward. He said, "I'm sorry, I don't really know what you're talking about." And it was Good Friday, so he thought that's a cool opportunity to kind of get in touch with those people. But when he realized that this guy had never even heard about Easter, it really moved him, and he figured out that that guy came from really a very, very small village at the very end of Afghanistan. And even if Afghanistan would have been open, it took another, 3-4 months until he would even realize that Afghanistan would open. And we have that chance. A lot of people from all over the world, from Afghanistan, Iran, Iraq, from Northern Africa, from Pakistan, from India, from wherever, people are coming here. And they're coming with difficult stories, even if they come because they don't have jobs or whatever. They have a long way. It's a lot of struggles to come here. Why ever you came here, it's a long way, and probably you have spent all your money, and you're just looking for a safe new place. And I just want to encourage you guys to spread that hope that we have, that you have. And helping is not always coming at a handy time. I have that story of my mom. She has such a big heart, and we are a patchwork family, so it's kind of complicated to get the family together, and Christmas is not working for us, it's too complicated. But Easter, Sunday Easter is our most holy family lunch, actually a brunch we do. So I was really excited last Easter, and I got home to my mom's house, and I opened the door, and it's the really nice table that's always there, and it's just 4 Iranian people sitting there. And I was like kind of shocked, and I was kind of angry because I knew Mom invited them, and I couldn't understand why, because it's our holiest family brunch. How could she? And at the same time, I was so ashamed of my reaction, because I realized I wouldn't want to share with them. It's too complicated now. Not now. I can help tomorrow, but not now. And God just showed me how wrong I was, because that's exactly what they need. We need to invite them to our houses, to our hearts, to our homes, to our most sacred places, because that's where they can encounter the Lord. That's where they can meet Jesus. And it doesn't come when it fits right, but it just comes when it comes. And we need to be free and open enough and invite the Holy Spirit to be alert and see when we have people who need us. And I would really like to pray for us all that we can learn that more and more and see when we have people around us, even at work. Maybe it's not even foreigners. Maybe it's just people at work, Germans, whoever. It's not about nationalities, but it's about loving God and loving ourselves so much that we can love others and that we can see and realize if there is people next to us who are actually in need. So I invite you all to stand up.